What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back once again and discussing some Detroit Lions training camp. Today, we are looking at my takeaways from Matt Patricia's press conference post day 2 of fully padded practice, and I'm going to be answering some of your guys' questions. Let's get it started. Welcome everybody to another video. Glad you guys are here, and today we're back and talking about training camp. Man, I could talk about Lions training camp all day long, and that's what's great about it, is that we have weeks of this. Awesome. Now, tomorrow is going to be an off day, but like I said, Dan Miller is going to be on tomorrow. So let me know some questions for Dan Miller. I'm picking some of the ones that I like, and I'm going to be using them. But also, I'm pretty sure we're going to be live at 8 p.m. Eastern. Now, there is a chance it is pre-recorded, but it will most likely be live. So make sure you're there, because why would you not want to be there? It's Dan Miller. Now, before we get into the Matt Patricia press conference, I want to answer some of the questions that I've recently received about the Detroit Lions training camp. So yes, I have missed on a few things, but I do have a lot of information, and I have a little bit of information, I would say, on a lot of different players. So I did get some questions about some guys that maybe I forgot to talk about or I haven't brought up yet. And you're probably like, wait, hold up. Hey, what about this guy? How's this guy doing? How's my guy doing? So if you guys have any more questions, put them in the comment section below. But I have received a few recently, so I just want to touch on those because I'm sure if someone has it, there's probably someone else that has a similar question. So the first thing is this: how is Hunter Bryant doing so far in training camp? And the information that I got about Hunter Bryant was actually from today, and that is that Hunter Bryant had a very long catch and run, which is something that we kind of come to expect with Hunter Bryant after watching his college tape. A big play over the middle, a nice crossing route, but at the same time, he did miss a block on a pass rush. He's almost a wide receiver. I mean, Hunter Bryant's about as close as you can get to a receiver as a tight end. No threat in the passing game. Probably a better threat in the passing game than he is as a blocker, but blocking we know is super important if you're going to make this team. So he did miss a block today, but he also had a very big grab. And so far, man, the Lions' weapons have been clicking. I mean, DeAndre Swift, Marvin Jones, Kenny Golladay. I mean, these guys have just been on fire. Quintez Cephas, Jamal Agnew. It's been like, oh my gosh. Like, can you guys, is anybody going to be able to cover these weapons? I mean, who can match up defensively with the Lions offense? I just don't see it. I really just don't see it. Question that I've gotten is about TJ Hockenson and whether or not TJ Hockenson will be ready for week 1. We know that he said he was not 100%, but the question is, well, do I think he'll be ready for week 1 to play in week 1? Not necessarily do I think he'll be 100%. I don't know if he's going to be 100%, right? I don't know his body. I don't know how far away he actually is from that. But if I was a betting man, I would say that TJ Hockenson will probably be ready to go by week 1. We have about 4 weeks until the season even kicks off. And if he's not 100%, that just means that he isn't exactly where he wants to be. But we know he's out there practicing, putting in work. He was working this offseason with George Kittle. We have seen that. TJ Hockenson looks kind of jacked. But TJ Hockenson is ready to have a huge year. He said he's trying to have more fun this season, and I think that comes with confidence. Really, a lot of things. If you are confident, you can have more fun with things, right? You can be more loose, you can be more open. And now year 2 with Darrell Bevel, that's going to help as well. So for a guy like TJ Hockenson, yes, I think he'll be ready for week 1. He'll be playing in week 1. Also talking about injuries, Jayshon Cornell, we said that he was carted off. It is apparently a very severe injury for his lower leg. So hopefully everything is okay there. I still don't have an update on when he's going to, be back or how long it should be out estimated. But as of now, we do know it's pretty severe. So it doesn't look like he's going to be ready for week 1. But we'll see. But Julian Okwara, some people want to know about the rookie Julian Okwara, because I've touched on a lot of other rookies except for Julian Okwara, and I get it. Okwara is a very exciting pick. He was our first pick in the 3rd round of this year's draft, a great pass rusher out of Notre Dame that, had some inconsistent stats, had to deal with some injuries as well, but he's the brother of Romeo. He's extremely athletic. Information that I do have for Julian Okwara is that today he split on his one-on-one battles. I've seen this across a lot of teams. Actually, a lot of teams were putting out, how their players did. Well, I don't think we've done that, but from my knowledge, he split his battles today with Terrell Crosby. He won one, and then he lost another one, because that's what he's going to be for Detroit. He needs to improve on his run stopping and setting the edge, but when it comes to getting to the quarterback, there's really no concern there. So those are just a couple of updates that I have for some of your guys' questions that you guys have sent me. Now let's talk some Matt Patricia. Again, if you guys have more questions, let me know in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer if I have information. All right, now let's get into what Matt Patricia had to say in tonight's press conference. We know, again, Matt Patricia doesn't necessarily go out and just say things, but I think this was a really good one. Once again, man, he just felt happy. He felt very good. And one question that he got specifically made him feel really happy. I mean, man, when Matt Patricia's smiling, it's hard not to smile. Matt Patricia's like, he's like Elmo.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
No, that's a terrible. Why did I say that? What kind of... Okay, let's cut that out. Let's get into the video. About what he had to say. So the first thing that he talked about was the rookies, because he was asked about how the rookies, were hitting the ground running so fast because they're playing really well. He said, first off, give credit to those players, right? The rookies have came in, they've done their job, and they've played really well up to this point. And he also says that usually early in training camp you could see this because they're really isolated. It's a lot of one-on-one drills, and you really see their talent shine, right? Because they're the main focus. However, usually when it comes to more teams, 11-on-11s, sometimes they tend to slow down a little bit because now you're throwing scheme into it, a lot of different equations. Right now they're just doing what they do, right? They're just doing what they do at a high level, and you get to see their skill sets. But what usually happens says Matt Patricia, is not always, and he's hoping it doesn't happen, but usually these players start to slow down a little bit once they start implementing more things, which makes sense, right? These are young guys, they're trying to learn a lot of things at once. Right now, they're basically just being asked to play, right? They just want to see the skill set. They're trying to evaluate everybody's skill set to see what they have to improve upon. That makes a lot of sense. And then later, they'll get into more of the scheme and more team drills. So right now, you're just kind of seeing the players go against other players. And a lot of these guys are showing off how good they really are, especially DeAndre Swift. We know he has drawn a lot of praise today for the right reason. DeAndre Swift has been playing really well recently in training camp. So that's what Matt Patricia had to say about the rookies. We know they've been playing well, and that is great. It also shows how well the Lions drafted, because let's be honest, the Lions had a really good draft. I think a lot of people will get that. Moving on to the quarterback position, once again, he's talking about Matthew Stafford. We know Matt Patricia loves Matthew Stafford. And he talked about Stafford saying he has done an unbelievable job, working with the players in the offseason. We've seen all the videos where he's working with Swift, right? He's working with this receiver, Victor Bolden, all these receivers in the offseason, putting in time, getting to know all these players. DeAndre Swift actually said that he visited Matthew Stafford's Georgia home, his family. So he's done a great job of communicating with these players, getting to know these players, getting to know them on a deeper level than just the football field. And that is huge, especially for new players that are finally coming into the system. So he talked about that. He also says that he has a huge impact, of course, in the passing game. He's done really well there. And also in the running game, in terms of making some checks at the line, being able to read the defense, and helping some of these other guys out. So Matthew Stafford has been great so far. And he also kind of sets the bar on what the expectations are as a team. That's about as good as you can put it. Shout out to Matthew Stafford and shout out to Matt Patricia. The player they talk about is Big V. Hapula Velati Vaitai. I'm not even going to try that again. Big V, right? The big offensive lineman that's supposed to start at right tackle this year. Well, I will say Matt Patricia, you know what? He's not usually going to say bad things about a player, so I will give you that. But he did seem very confident in Big V's abilities up to this point. He has been starting with the first unit, even though Matt Patricia says they really haven't picked starters yet. Right now, it's just competition. He has been with the first unit as of now, starting at their right tackle position. And let me just say, Matt Patricia, he seems to like this guy, and I think there's a reason they gave him so much money. Matt Patricia, basically the first thing he said about Big V when asked, he said, he's a big, very large guy. And you know what? He is a very big guy. And that's what apparently he likes in his tackles, but he also has that blend of enough athleticism to move around. We know he can play different positions. You have to be athletic to play both guard and tackle. I mean, that's just not normal. Not a lot of guys can do that, not on both sides. We know he's athletic, but he also has a big size. And he says, I think a few players were surprised when they got stonewalled just to see how strong this guy really is. So yes, he still has things to work on, but he hasn't missed a beat playing at the tackle position. So it seems like he's going to be a right tackle heading into the season. And I think that's kind of what a lot of people were predicting heading. One thing that was brought up was about free agents. And I really like this question because we know Cornell went down today and whether or not the Lions are going to bring in more free agents. And this is kind of something that we talked about before, but he was asked, how does this work? If you have to go sign someone, if there's someone that you have to bring in case there's injuries, to fill in for depth, whatever it may be, do you guys have a list of players or do you already kind of have, kind of like a list of, okay, these are the guys that we're going to go for if we need help? Or is it kind of just that huge, long process? He says there's still going to be a process no matter what because you still got to test everybody, make sure they all check every box before you go sign them. But he does say that they have done a pretty good job of compiling a small little list of certain players, and a lot of it's come through workouts, right? Trouts, workouts, and that's exactly what I think, and that's kind of what I talked about before, is that I think that's a big reason you have all these workouts, not necessarily because you're going to go sign everybody. I mean, you may, like Jonathan Williams, if they surprise you, but it's also so that you know for future reference, hey, here's our list. We like this guy, write him down, because that's your opportunity to get to know these players without having to give them any money, right? That's a perfect opportunity for NFL teams, and that's why the Lions jump on that, just so they know what's kind of out there. They know a pool of players instead of just having to completely guess and then go try to bring him in. It's like, oh, we wasted 3 days and we don't even want to sign this guy because he doesn't check all of our boxes because we didn't know what we were going to get. That's why it's super important to have, these workouts, tryouts, kind of learn a little bit about the players. I know it's short for a short period of time, but it is good to have that little list. So I like that question. That was a heck of a question. He also talked about how you cover big receivers. So this is a question that I really liked. And this was like, hey, what do you guys, for mainly the young guys, what do you tell them when they're trying to cover guys like Marvin Jones, Kenny Galladay, making these go and get passes? It's a great pass by Stafford, and it's just like they're completely outsized how in the world do you cover these guys? And he said, well, sometimes they're just great players, and you're just like, hey, that's great throw, great catch. They're great players. Things like that are going to happen. But he does say usually they look through and they can find things to work on. And even if you're outsized, there's still ways to prevent that. Of course, putting a safety over top can definitely help. But he says usually it goes through the whole play, not just the point of attack. Basically, you got to look back to the start of the play. Could we have jammed him at the line better? Could it have started better with press at the line of scrimmage? In the transition, whatever his route would have been, when he made that first move, whatever that is, how quicker could have you got there? Your technique, the process to the pass being completed. It's more than just the point of attack. And then, of course, once the wide receiver does get the ball in his hands, you're naturally going to bring it down to your body. So it's to fight with him to the ground. And that's what I saw when he was doing a clinic on this. Is his kind of thing was, fight with the wide receiver to the ground. Once he has it in his hands, doesn't mean he caught it yet. He's going to try to bring it to his body, and that's where it's lower to you, and that's where you need to punch that football out. We saw that a few times with Justin Coleman last year. That's where you need to take advantage and knock the ball out of a big receiver's hands. So there are ways to combat it, but it can be tough. And he's like, I'm really glad we have guys like Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones on our roster, and I'm glad we do too, because like I said, that wide receiver core is nasty. That's what DeAndre Swift has done so far, clearly, because Swift is really good, and that was kind of going off the rookie thing we talked about earlier. He has a great skill set, but what they look for is consistency. No one's won a job yet, but they're going to look for consistency. And when they start to go to more to live hitting and tackling, it's about his contact balance. Basically, you're getting hit. Are you staying up? How well is your balance? And that's what I really liked with Williams. Jonathan Williams, running that we signed, I felt like he had really good contact balance. He would take a hit, able to keep his balance, and that's where break tackles usually come from. That's what they saw with him out of Georgia, and that's what they're going to look for more when it comes to, live hitting and things like that, to really decide how many snaps these guys and how many touches they're going to get, at least early in the season. About Jamal Agnew transitioning to wide receiver, and he was also asked if you think maybe he has an advantage because he played corner. He said, well, it doesn't hurt. Not necessarily going to say it's giving him an advantage, but he does know that he's worked with guys that have done the opposite, where they've went from cornerback to wide receiver, and where they went to wide receiver to cornerback, and the cornerbacks, when they come back to him, are like, hey, man, I knew that route because I used to run that route, so I jumped on that route. I knew what it was going to be, and that's what he sees with Jamal Agnew that could potentially help him. Once he gets the ball out in space, he's like, yeah, this guy's electrifying. He's quick. He's fast. He can make plays out in space. So once you get the ball out there to him, he's gonna be extremely dangerous. We already know that, just like he is as a return man. If he doesn't fumble, if he's got the ball, he's gonna be dangerous. That's what really helps, is that he's able to read coverages, especially in film when we're teaching players things. He can read the coverages, and he knows that Jamal Agnew will understand everything that's going on in the defense, and also he can read where the help is. And he said that's huge, especially with teams that like to disguise coverage. Hey, that's a term we fall in love with. Teams that like to disguise coverage, what's really going to help Jamal is his ability to see the help defensively, right? To see where they may be, kind of focusing on defensively, where the help may be coming from for a safety, whatever it may be. There could definitely be a benefit here, and he's handled the transition very, very well. So yeah, we know Jamal Agnew has been playing well so far. They talked about carry-on. They said the reason he had a light load is simply just, it was a planned kind of rest day, right? They're trying to maximize potential of rest. With tomorrow being off, they're going to give him light today, not really practicing today. Basically, you get back-to-back days off, and that's huge. Felt really hard yesterday, so it's good to have him have those 2 rest days, 2 off days, as he's still, trying to become 100% for the season. You take everything kind of slow this time. There's no reason to rush anything. Make sure everybody's healthy for the season. So those are my takeaways from Patricia. That's me answering some of your questions. If you have more, then let me know in the comment section below. Thank you, Prop, for watching, and I'm out.